Hey guys, Craig here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's video I'm going to be telling you about the McDonald's Mcmillions fraud scandal. But before I get into today's video, please like this video and subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon so that you never miss another upload. As always guys, these videos are made for educational purposes only and to create a talking point and discussion around a certain topic. I never mean any disrespect to any of the victims or their families. So now that that is out of the way, let's begin. In 2018, it was discovered that fast food giant McDonald's Monopoly game, in which customers receive a small tab piece from the Monopoly board game to win prizes, was being rigged by a former cop who headed the security for the company that produced the game pieces for McDonald's. For a cut of the winnings, friends and family members of the security guard were sold the winning pieces, totaling over $20 million. He was eventually caught in the act by the FBI, who was monitoring his telephone conversations, and he was sentenced to 15 years in prison and ordered to repay $12 million, along with whom he sold the winning pieces to, all except one winner who McDonald's allowed to keep their prize. In 1995, St. Jude's Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee received a plain white envelope in the mail. There was no return address. The clerk opened the mail at first thought it was empty, until she looked a little bit closer. There inside was a single McDonald's Monopoly instant prize winning game piece for $1 million. St. Jude's would receive $50,000 a year for the next 20 years. It was the largest single anonymous donation that the charity's hospital had ever received. In 1987, McDonald's launched one of their most successful promotions ever. Cars, cash, video game consoles, houses, vacations and more were up for grabs by playing McDonald's Monopoly game. Each purchase of a sandwich or large french fries or large drink came with a game piece, a small tab that featured one of the Monopoly properties. Players win by collecting all of the properties in a specific colour group, which the blue group, featuring Park Place and Boardwalk, being the highest winners. The game became so popular that each time winners were showcased on the local news. Sales increased by 30 or 40%. Game tabs were being sold on Craigslist and eBay auctions for big bucks. Some desperate contestants committed armed robberies to steal the stack of drink cups and fry tubs to get their hands on more pieces. Players didn't know that their odds of winning the top prizes, such as collecting the blue properties or finding an instant winner ticket, were only 1 in 600 million, which is 425 times more than the average chance of winning the Powerball lottery, and more expensive to play too. Still, players held out hope of obtaining that one piece needed to be the next big winner. And it usually was one last piece that the player needed to claim their big prizes. So everyone was competing against each other over the same few pieces. What those players didn't realise is that they could save their money and spare their waistline because the odds of winning any of the big prizes had actually dropped to zero. For the 11-year period between 1989 and 2001. That's because the very man who was employed to safeguard the integrity of the game was secretly stealing the winning tabs and selling them to his friends and family for a substantial cut of the prize, making him a McMillionaire. Jerome Jacobson was born in 1943 in Youngstown, Ohio. He suffered with some minor medical complaints throughout childhood, and he was considered sickly. He joined the Marine Corps after graduating from high school, but was eventually discharged for having high arches. This came as a blow to Jerome, as joining the corps had been a lifelong dream of his. In 1976, Jacobson would go on to become a police officer for the town of Hollywood, Florida. But again, health issues interfered when he broke his wrist and had to leave the force temporarily. Just a few years after this, Jacobson would be fired from the police force when it was discovered that he was suffering from an unspecific neurological issue. He would then transition to working as a security guard and seemed to find a measure of success doing this, rising through the ranks to become the head of Simon Marketing's biggest accountant, McDonald's. This was quite the boon for Jacobson, as he was earning upwards of $70,000 a year, which was 5 times more than he was making as a police officer. He also got to fly around the country delivering the game pieces. Outside of work though, people who knew him described him as a little bit odd. He would regularly visit psychics and talk about his secret investments that would make him rich one day based on the advice of his psychic advisors. The McDonald Monopoly game pieces were printed by Simon Marketing and then distributed in tamper-proof sealed envelopes to the companies responsible for producing the fast food giant's food and beverage containers. Jerome Jacobson was the man hired by Simon Marketing as their head of security, and by all counts, he was a real hard ass when it came to making sure that the line workers didn't sneak a few winning tabs out their door at the end of their shift. He would go as far as to accompany the staff to the bathroom and make them take off their shoes before they could leave. Employees chalked it up to Uncle Jerry, as he was known, being an ex-cop, but it was really because he had larceny in his own heart and wanted those winning tabs all for himself. Jacobson was responsible for personally delivering the game pieces to the plant that manufactured the containers in which the game pieces were attached to. He was accompanied by an independent auditor hired by Simon Marketing and McDonald's, who was responsible for watching Jacobson to keep him honest. The first time that Jacobson engineered the theft, he ditched the woman who was supposed to be keeping an eye on him by quickly ducking into the men's bathroom. As soon as he entered the bathroom at the airport, Jacobson was prepared with one of the tamper-proof strips so that he was able to reseal the envelope after taking the piece containing the grand prize out. 2 days later, a man named Marvin Braun stepped forward to claim the prize. He was Jacobson's stepbrother. In the years that followed, the fraud would grow, as Jacobson stole more and more of the pieces containing the top prizes. By 1995, he was stealing every single substantial prize, and Jacobson was also getting more creative in covering his tracks to ensure that they didn't lead back to him. Anyone associated with Jacobson, the further the better, was considered fair game. From strip club owners to bartenders and even a mob boss, whom he recruited to claim the big prize, racking up more than $20 million over several years. The mob boss in question was none other than Jerry Colombo, and he and Jacobson met at an airport by chance and began a friendship. Jacobson was so smitten with the whole mafia lifestyle that he even changed his name to Hector X. Colombo was also smitten with the Dodge Viper, one of the prizes available in the Monopoly game, so he paid Jacobson a fee and won the car. He would even go on to feature in a McDonald's commercial promoting the game. He had his father-in-law redeem an instant win game piece for $1 million. And his wife's brother also cashed in on the game. Colombo enjoyed giving pieces to others. It made him feel powerful. Ironically, Colombo was driving his ill-gotten Dodge Viper less than a year later and was struck by another vehicle. His wife, who was travelling with him, would survive the accident, but Colombo was in a coma on life support. 2 weeks later, he would pass away when the decision was made to take him off life support. Perhaps fate was not so happy with his actions and decided to balance the scales. And how much did Uncle Jerry take in from all his thefts? It is alleged that he charged $50,000 for the biggest winning pieces, and that had to be paid in cash up front. He earned more than $1 million for selling the Monopoly game pieces. In 1996, one unnamed participant who had been involved in the fraud confessed to law enforcement, who discovered that 3 of the winners all lived in the Jacksonville, Florida area. Given the astronomical odds of winning, the chance that 3 random strangers from the same town would win was unconvincible. A little digging found that the 3 lucky winners were all related to Jerome Jacobson, called Uncle Jerry in the family, who lived in Atlanta, Georgia, just over the border from Florida. This prompted the FBI to take over the investigation, as it involved multiple people in multiple states. The FBI obtained wiretap warrants and recorded Jacobson and his fellow swindlers conducting cover stories and dealing with taxes, and how to recruit others to be the one to win the prizes. This endeavour was called Operation Final Answer. When the FBI learnt that the McDonald's game and the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire game had also been rigged, their investigation efforts doubled. The FBI told McDonald's who would be claiming the next $1 million prize, and they always turned out to be correct. The following year, in 1997, 3 people were discovered to be involved in efforts to defraud McDonald's promotion. In 2001, following an intensive investigation by the FBI, Operation Final Answer, 8 people would face criminal charges related to fraud and the theft of the game pieces, including mob boss Columbo's own father-in-law, who was given a winning piece by his daughter, Columbo's wife. Jerry Colombo himself would be spared criminal charges, as he was killed shortly after winning in a traffic accident driving the Dodge Viper. Another 44 people would be brought up on relevant charges just a few months after the initial indictment. The trial would occur on September 10, 2001, and would see 47 out of the 52 defendants accept a plea deal and plead guilty, including Uncle Jerry Jacobson. He was sentenced to 37 months in prison, and law enforcement seized all of his assets. He was additionally sentenced to repay $12.5 million. The St. Jude's Hospital was the only winner not forced to repay their winnings. McDonald's deemed that they could keep all of the proceeds from the $1 million instant game piece that had been mailed to them anonymously. Even though St. Jude's tried to turn down the offer and repay the amount that they had received so far, but McDonald's stuck to their word and insisted that they keep it. Jacobson admitted to sending the game piece to St. Jude's because the game piece was about to expire and go out of date, and he didn't want it to go to waste, and he was unable to recruit someone to claim the prize. Simon Marketing, the company that produced the game pieces, would eventually go out of business when McDonald's severed all ties with them, and the tobacco giant Philip Morrison also followed suit, even though it appeared that the fraud was the work of one single individual. The 2 companies that pulled out consisted of 70% of their sales. 200 people lost their jobs. On July 28, 2018, the Daily Beast published an article about the case, and it remains the most comprehensive source of information about the scandal. There was also a TV show called Mcmillions that I suggest you watch because it goes into so much detail about this case, and it's actually quite fascinating. The McDonald's Monopoly game promotion still continues to this day. So guys, that was the fascinating story of the McDonald's Mcmillions fraud scandal. But here's a little question for you. If one of your family members offered you a $1 million game piece for $50,000, would you accept it? Now there's food for thought, don't you think? If you liked today's video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. And hit that bell icon so that you never miss another episode. So after all this talk about McDonald's, I think I might go and get myself a Big Mac. I'll see you all next time. Take care. Bye.